Startups don't have time for committee meetings or AI task forces. They build fast, test early, and kill what doesn't work.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about. Wait!
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to Higher Ed Pulse, your no-fluff guide to artificial intelligence in higher ed. I'm Mallory Willsea, bringing nearly 20 years of edtech and marketing expertise straight to your earbuds. Higher ed leaders are expected to master AI overnight, but let's be real, no one has time to sift through every headline, hot take, or research report. That's why every Monday, I'll break down what actually matters. Fast, clear, and to the point. Want to sound like the smartest person in the room at your next team meeting? You're in the right place. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Higher Ed Pulse. On today's episode, startups don't have time for committee meetings or AI task forces. They build fast, test early, and kill what doesn't work. So what can higher ed learn from that pace of innovation? And what happens when AI moves from pilot to protocol? Joining me today is Kyle James, product leader, startup founder, and former college webmaster. He's here to share how AI tools are already changing how business gets done and where higher ed is still stuck in the brainstorming phase. We're unpacking what higher ed can borrow from the AI boom and how to skip the pilot phase and just start building. Kyle, welcome to the Pulse.
Mallory, thanks for having me.
It's so good to see you. And now, listeners, Kyle and I go way back 15 plus years ago to a lot of fun hangs in Boston. Kyle was one of the first 30 or 40 team members at HubSpot and also ran New Cloud, which some of you may be familiar with, that virtual campus tour. Kyle, I feel like we have almost 20 years of memories that we could just dive right into right now. But gosh, it seemed like a simpler time back in the days when you were in Boston and Twitter was new and we were having some, cake vodka shots at your apartment. I said I wasn't going to bring it up, but oops, there it is. Sorry.
Yeah, such a long, am I the Obi-Wan Kenobi around here now? Because remember, I was the .edu guru 20 years ago.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, blast from the past. I wonder if listeners remember that site, .edu guru. That was the original,
it's still up,
space for, new ideas and thought leadership in our industry. It served such an important purpose.
Hey, I've still got my red staplers over here to prove it. I know a thing about high ed web, so yeah.
It's called Digital Collegium now, Kyle. I feel like I have to correct you because I was on the brand task force for that one.
Old man here, sorry. There's probably 10% of this audience that knows who I am and how crazy and all over the place I am, and then everybody's like, who the heck is this wild guy you brought to the call?
Seriously. I told Kyle, y'all, that he was going to be our innovation scout for this episode because since he left HubSpot, since he sold New Cloud, just over the last 2 decades, Kyle, I feel like you have kind of seen it all in terms of, inside the industry, outside the industry, fast-paced startups, all the things. And so I just have to say, when I reached out and asked if you would join me on an episode and you immediately said yes, I was just so thrilled. And right before we hit record, we were saying this could be an hour-long episode if we're not careful. So buckle up, listeners.
Well, yeah, and what's really interesting is I run a couple of different podcast series about AI myself. One where I'm talking to B2B SaaS companies like go-to-market, and everybody wants to talk to AI. And the other one is more of agentic builders for agent AI. So I'm not used to anybody caring what I have to say. It's so I'm kind of curious what you want to know because everything I'm gonna spill is from something I heard somebody smarter than me say.
Well, you're in the hot seat today, Kyle, and we are going to get into it. Startups are not easing into AI. They're building with it and fast. And I think no one knows that more than you do. So from marketing and sales to product development and customer support, artificial intelligence has become the default operating system, especially in early stage tech companies. Teams are automating what used to take weeks, and they're launching products without ever writing a line of code, experimenting in public and pivoting in real time. Meanwhile, in our higher ed industry, industry, institutions are still in the pilot phase. And that was made clear to me at the Engage Summit a couple weeks ago. There were still conversations about forming task forces and drafting usage policies and even debating the classroom etiquette of ChatGPT. And so that gap between experimentation and execution is becoming really noticeable in higher ed. Just a couple weeks ago, Wired ran a story on AI platforms, helping students and families discover colleges, match with scholarships, and get essay feedback, really democratizing college counseling in real time. And CIO.com featured Babson College's Gen AI initiatives like a MathBot tutor for struggling students and an AI teaching training program designed to help faculty test new tools and launch new courses. Links to those articles will be in the show notes. So yes, right, there are some bright spots in higher ed, but I think my takeaway from the Engage Summit was that there's still so much more room to grow, so much that we can learn from the startup world. And like I said, Kyle, you are our innovation scout. You've been in the trenches. You've seen how startups are really putting AI to work. And you've spent the last decade building and advising startups. So if you had to boil it down, right, like really clearly, what are startups getting right about AI that maybe higher ed institutions still aren't quite grasping?
Well, I'm going to even take a step back to what you just said about those surveys and kind of how they're recommending students use that, because that's awesome. But think of the impact of that. What does that mean? That means long tail SEO is going away. Mm-hmm. SEO doesn't matter. Newsweek, top schools or not, doesn't matter anymore, because they're literally telling people, don't use this, use this. And instead of going to Google and searching for it and going through pages of results, that's kind of getting fed to you in a much more customized way. So I had to get that in, because that's like a great data, but what does that mean? It probably means this. So all those pages of long tail content that you've created around that, it's getting sucked up into this AI and spit out maybe the way you want it, maybe not. But let's talk about some actionable things that ways that businesses are using AI. And it's crazy, all the stuff. But the low-hanging fruit that I hear everybody using is video call transcriptions, right? And we see this everywhere in the B2B SaaS world. You don't get on a call without 1 to 5 of these things sitting on a call with you, right? And I'm the idiot who loves to get on, because I wrote a lot of those calls earlier. Like, I'll just start talking to the AI. And I've got a friend who was telling me a story how he got on one early and like gave this whole story about it. I'm sorry, guys, I got to run out of here. There's a fire. The fire truck's coming. My house is burning down. Simply because when the AI transcript came out and sent it to everybody, that's what the AI transcripts comes up with. Hey, Kyle had an emergency and a fire was in his house and he had to leave early. So people are like already starting to mess with this stuff. Sorry, fun nugget, probably totally off script, but you think about if you're on calls, and higher ed might be different. Maybe it's class calls, right? Maybe you're interviewing prospective students and you've got these transcripts. Well, think of all the ways that AI can use these transcripts. And I don't know what people have played with what, but in the business world, those sales call transcripts can be used by marketers to help write content, right? Here's the 10 things that salespeople are talking about. And if everybody in an org is using these, like, the marketer could say, hey, look at all the calls from the last week and tell me what were the top 5 things that came up over and over. Like, that's how they're using it. But product people are using this too. Support people are using this. And everybody is using everybody else's calls to like figure this stuff out. If you're doing this in recruitment, I imagine like, what are your personas? Like, we had 100 calls last week. What are the common themes that came up in these personas to build a persona of these prospective students? Like, that's a low-hanging fruit that if you're not pulling in those little agents sitting on call, and there's so many companies, dude, there's a dozen of them we can name off the top of our head. They're 95% all the same. But that's one, and which directly leads into like the content generation, right? Can you write more customized emails to people because you have a call transcript with them on a phone call? You know their interest. So you can kind of pull that into CRM enrichment stuff. We're starting to see this stuff writing code. I don't even think people, you kind of alluded to this, but some recent survey came out that what Google is already 30% of their code that goes into production is being written by AI now.
Wow. I hadn't seen that, but I believe it.
Well, Facebook's already come out and announced we're no longer hiring software engineers because everything's going to be, all of our growth is going to be AI supplemented code. I've got friends that are product people that if they can write a good scope of work, i.e. a prompt, and work with tools like Cursor and Windsurf, it's writing the software for them. Like, for so long in the software world, the bottleneck has been what?
It's been the software engineers.
It's been the engineers. Guess what? Like, that bottleneck has changed, which,
Oh, yeah.
like, now you've got me going off a tangent here, but
No, we love it. Bring it.
the thing that no one realizes about this is for so long we thought AI was going to come and disrupt who? We didn't know. Well, it's coming disrupting all the white collar jobs. The plumber, the HVAC technician, they've got at least another 5-10 years before they even have to think about this.
Yeah, the robot isn't fixing my toilet yet. So
Yeah, it can't. How's it going to do that? It doesn't know.
Right.
Doesn't know what to do. Not that those things aren't being trained on virtual reality data now, but yeah, it's all the white collar jobs. Which, let's get into an AI, like an education thing. So what are you teaching? What are you teaching all your college grads? Because you're not teaching the high dollar, high value ones, the graduate students, how to become a plumber, how to become an electrician, a technician. You're teaching them all these white collar jobs that are being replaced. But also, people like you and I have been in the market for decades now. It took us decades to get the scars on our back to know what great is, right? And who's teaching these younger people what great is if so much of what we're doing and other people like us is being supplemented with AI instead of a team underneath us of junior people who are learning from those experiences? And I saw something recently too that, like, this is the smallest cohort of like graduate students that are getting jobs because the beginning stuff's all being sucked out by AI. Think of the impact that has.
I'm really nervous about that. We, in an episode a few weeks ago, talked about this. And, my position has really evolved over the last year in terms of, yes, AI is there to help us and to augment us and to allow us, we were saying right before we hit record, we're able to do a lot of work very quickly because of AI as individuals. But I feel like I'm orchestrating a team of AI agents around me to get all that work done, not a team of entry-level employees. And for me, like, that's the replacement. Like, yes, you and I have 20 years of work history. We can identify what's good content versus bad, a good brand, refresh or narrative. But the learning opportunity for somebody who graduated college 2 months ago, like, oh man, like it is our 20-year-olds, our Gen Zers and the future Gen A. What are they going to do? Like that, I don't know. And that like really concerns me.
Yeah. Well, let's peel the onion back a little bit more too, because I fundamentally believe as a human that we have to struggle to thrive. And what I mean by thrive is to like actually feel fulfillment that we've accomplished things and done greatness. And I think everybody is capable of that. And everybody has different ways that they go about doing that. But if you don't have, if you got an easy button here that does everything for you, like how do you feel fulfillment? That really worries me. Now the counter argument to that, because I devil's advocate myself all the time, is if AI is able to take so much of this easy, busy work, because it's busy work, away from us, does that mean that people get to specialize in things that they're truly passionate about again? And I hope that's the case, but right, like, and what do I mean by that? I mean by that, like, sure, you can get IKEA furniture for super cheap in the future. But if you want that handmade bookcase by someone who's actually passionate about carpentry and you want to spend up for it, great, that will exist too, because there'll be people that can now dedicate more time to doing those things. And we'll have more people that can dedicate their time to doing that. And like, honestly, that's been the evolution of humans since, we came out of hunters and gatherers, right? We started setting up fields, and then half the population could do thinking jobs. And then, Industrial Revolution came out and everybody went to shops. And then that kind of ended because it got more and more automation. And this is a whole nother level of automation. Hopefully it brings good things, but I wish I could promise that. It's a coin flip out whether, we've all seen Terminator, right?
The former University of Tulsa president was on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and he predicts that the liberal arts are really going to start to see a rise again because of what you just said, this space of where can we as humans find our fulfillment? Like, will philosophy, right? Like, will that rise? Like, for me, it's music, right? Like, I'm like, for you, you're buying your bookcase, but for me, I'm like, I'm going to the Performing Arts Center and listening to the orchestra with 100 humans on that stage because they love and are the best at their craft. And yeah, sure, AI can make music too. I play with AI music generators all the time, but there will just be, I think, and I hope, a deeper appreciation for people who have these skills and these crafts as a result.
I think you're right. I think he's right too. And this is something I've thought a lot about is we're exiting the age of specialization where the people that thrive will be the generalist, right? Because if you're a generalist...
That's good for us. You and I are both generalists, so this spells good things for
I
us.
hope so. Maybe I'm just like, pontificating for my own internal fulfillment and like make myself feel good. But I think if you have a broad understanding of things across a large spectrum, you're able to get the AIs to dive deeper into specific things, right? And if it can accomplish those things for you, you don't have to specialize. Where, 20 years ago, there was picking on kind of web a little bit. There was no SEO job. And then that became a whole big job in the last 20 years or 10 years. And then it's kind of coming, kind of getting replaced a little bit. Some of these crazy specialized jobs that we needed people and saw the highest value amount, like salary wise, are probably going to start going away because you can have agentic agents do those specific things for you. Quite honestly, better than a human can.
Right. And far faster and more accurately too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I am hopeful that yes, the generals and hopefully going back to the liberal arts teaches you how to think, not what to think, right?
Bingo.
And the more people that learn how to think and can ask these questions of these models and these GPTs, it's probably a good thing. The one devil's advocate myself again is how unbiased is that data going to be, right? Like, because if you're sitting there talking to a model that's sitting there telling you the earth is flat and you're sucking up everything it has, that's what you're going to get. If you're in a model that's giving you a bunch of left or right, that's where you're going to go. So, how do we make these things unbiased or maybe even better, understand bias and also educate you around why and where it's biased? That's a really important thing that we've all got it. It's not like we can escape it, but we need to understand the empathy around those decisions because nothing is black and white, and it's only becoming more and more gray over time. Everything is.
What worries me is the models that are going to tell you that you're so brilliant because you think the earth is flat. Like the hype up in some of these models is way too much. I am constantly telling ChatGPT to tone it down because I'm like, I am not like, Jesus walking on water here. Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back a few steps, ChatGPT. And it makes me nervous. The misinformation, is also where I think we have to be really careful. And to go back to what we were saying before, those of us who have decades of experience can sift through the misinformation in ways that some of our, new colleagues in the workforce do not have the experience to do. And, it'll be really interesting to see how this all evolves in, not just the coming years, but it feels like in the coming months. Like you blink and something has changed.
The latest stat on that is that the GPT models double in intelligence every 6 months now.
That's bonkers.
You remember when it was Moore's Law and CPU doubled every 18 months? Like, triple that. That's where we're going now. And throw something crazy at you that I was listening to something, because these things now have, PhD level intelligence on specific fields, where somebody was just talking to a GPT model and it's like, when do you want to get an augmentation with humans? And had this whole conversation with it because that's probably coming, right? And the model threw a curveball at him and said, why would I want to integrate in with a human? Wouldn't a gorilla be a whole lot better fit? But here's the scary part about that. When you're AI and you have IQ in the thousands, Do you care if you're integrating with a human with an IQ of 100 or one with 30? It's irrelevant either
Doesn't
way.
matter.
Doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But the physical attributes of a gorilla are well bigger than any human. So, like, chew on that. That's wild.
Kyle, we are 20 minutes into this podcast. I've asked you one question and I just love the like free form of thinking. Listeners, get excited because this is just part one of a 2-part series with Kyle. We are going to pick his brain even more next week, diving deeper into startup culture and all the things that higher ed can learn from it. Kyle, before we wrap up this week, any parting thoughts?
You have to come back next week because we're just getting started.
We are just getting
I can't
started.
give you one nugget at this point. We've got another 20 minutes worth of nuggets. Let's go.
Boom. Let's go. All right, folks. We'll catch you next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Higher Ed Pulse. The show is a proud member of the Enrollify Network, home to Higher Ed's largest collection of podcasts. Enrollify is where higher ed goes to grow. So be sure to check out our other podcasts, webinars, video clips, blogs, and more. Visit Enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly to your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com.